You're back! See you again.
Oh, good, you're safe.
There you are. You were in such a state when you left.
The poachers got to my gran. Someone recognized me in Horntail Hall and they got to her.
What do you mean? Is she all right?
She's fine, thank goodness. But they were at her house, our house. They assumed I'd sent the egg there. She said they took the whole place apart looking for it, screaming that we'd cost them everything.
I'm sorry, Poppy. I'm glad she's all right. I don't think either one of us could have anticipated that.
I should have known. I underestimated the poachers. And now another creature's in danger.
What do you mean?
The poachers refused to leave empty-handed, so they took valuable journals that Gran had discovered when she was researching rare creatures. One of them contained theories about a secret hiding place of the Snidget, long thought to be extinct.
Exactly what kind of creature is a Snidget?
It's a small bird with golden feathers. It's incredible. It has rotational wings that allow it to dart quickly in any direction. In fact, the golden snitch in Quidditch is based on the Snidget, which barbarically was actually used in the sport hundreds of years ago.
Why would Snidgets be valuable to poachers?
They could make more money with Snidgets than they ever would have fighting dragons. The golden Snidget's feathers and eyes are incredibly valuable. That's why they're believed to be extinct. They were hunted out of existence by wizard kind. If the poachers found some now, I can't bear to think about the horrific way they'd be bred and killed for profit.
Where exactly are these Snidgets allegedly hidden?
Gran says the journals were a bit cryptic, which is good. Perhaps the poachers won't be clever enough to find the birds. From what she recalls, the journals only noted that the key to finding them lay in the moonlight. Gran thinks it can be narrowed down to a handful of locations.
I take it you aren't going to let the poachers anywhere near the Snidgets.
Gran wants me to stay out of it, but I know she's devastated that poachers might go after the Snidgets, if they still exist. We had the element of surprise on our side when we saved that dragon, but the poachers will be watching for us now.
We need allies, others who hate the poachers enough to help us, who value creatures as much
Merlin's beard! You're a genius! The centaurs! They'd want the Snidgets protected at all costs.
Sounds as if we need to go and talk to the centaurs.
We'll need to be careful in how we approach them. Tensions with them are high. Still, I think they may be our only hope. Let me think on it. I'll let you know as soon as I have a plan.
Might I ask a favor of you?
Hello, is there something I can help you with?
How do you do? I'm Satirissa Tugwood, and I have an exciting business proposition for you. Now, it may surprise you to learn that someone of my obvious esteemed lineage would be in business. But I only want to help the less fortunate.
That's incredibly nice of you.
Oh, there's more. You see, I've been experimenting with a new beauty cream. A cream that will rid our glorious school of the hideous, greasy pustules plaguing our poor pubescent classmates. But I've run out of the key ingredient, boobotuber pus. Boobotubers do grow in the Forbidden Forest, however. If only I could pay someone to collect a few for me.
What precisely are boobotubers?
Disgusting things, really, covered in protrusions. One needs to squeeze them to collect the pus. They smell simply awful and seem to move on their own. Ugh, I wouldn't go near the things if it weren't for my devotion to my classmates.
How on earth did you discover that boobotuber pus clears one's skin?
One cannot rely on spells for all appearance enhancements. The errant cast, for example, could relocate one's eyebrows entirely rather than merely thinning them. My darling and now perpetually surprised-looking neighbour discovered that on her own. Poor thing. I am convinced that beauty potions are the future. I'm forever looking for ways to make this world a more beautiful place. I suspected that if pure boobotuber pus could cause boils, an altered form would likely reverse such abominations. And I was correct.
I can try and find some for you if I have the time.
Marvellous. I'd go myself, but I don't want to. I only need a few boobotubers, but they grow wild, so you'll have to look around. Our spotty classmates are counting on you, so you mustn't tarry.
Into the Forbidden Forest for boobotubers. I hope it's worth the risk.
Oh, I'm always thrilled when a young one makes a wise purchase. I can tell you'll go far. Doors always open. You be sure to stop by soon.
Perhaps a hybrid. Bouncing tentacular.
I finished the activities you assigned me, Professor Garlick.
Wonderful. I hope you gained a greater appreciation for the flora in our lives. I am forever enraptured by it. Just yesterday, I spent hours pruning my self-fertilizing shrubs and flutterby bushes. Didn't realize how long I'd been at it until the sun began to set. Well, if there's one thing I love to see more than my plants thriving, it's one of my students doing the same. Now, ready to learn flipendo? Chin up, keep a light grip, and it's all in the wrist. Let's see you give it a go. You will want to focus with this spell. Nothing as mortifying as knocking back a colleague when all you wanted to do was move a few pots. Wonderfully done! If you'd like to practice a bit... Welcome to do so. You're a natural.
Professor Garlic, a moment of your time?
The plants are resting, so now's as good a time as any.
I was wondering, what made you want to teach herbology?
How lovely of you to ask. I've always had an affinity for greenery, so this situation is a bit of a dream come true. After graduation, I was thrilled to be asked to step in for my old herbology professor. He'd had a slight accident, you see.
Oh dear. A shame for him, but it worked out well for you.
Well, he never cared, really cared for the plants, and they could sense it. Oh, you'd be surprised how perceptive a plant can be. At any rate, the trouble began one day when he cut into a wigan tree. Unfortunately for him, its leaves were hiding a bowtruckle. You may recall the marvelous creatures that resemble a twig. The little beast gouged the professor's eyes quite fiercely, but terrifying, I'd imagine. Likely for the professor, too.
And that's when you took over as the herbology professor?
Well, not quite. After 3 weeks at St. Mungo's, my predecessor regained a tiny bit of his eyesight. He insisted on returning to the greenhouse. Within a week, he claims by accident, kicked a Chinese chomping cabbage, so it was back to St. Mungo's for him.
What a string of bad luck.
Well, I felt awful for him, but I dare say I felt a bit more sympathy for the cabbage. Upon his discharge from the hospital, his indifference to plants had turned to utter disdain. He lost what little patience he had left with a particularly temperamental venomous tentacula and, well, his resulting leave of absence continues to this day.
I'm glad everything worked out as it did, and that you're the herbology professor now.
Very kind of you to say. I do love these gardens and helping my students grow. Lovely speaking with you. Have a wonderful day. Oh, and remember, be kind to your wigan trees.
We should speak with Mr. Bickle's friends. I believe I can sneak away without drawing my mother's eye. Meet me near Hogsmeade, and we will devise a plan.
These rocks have seen better days. This is where Saccharissa said to go. Now, where are those booba tubers? Revelio. Oh, that smells awful. Only 4 more, thank goodness.
No!
Revelio.
Nothing to post an errand to except spiders. Not worth the trouble if you ask me. Confringo! You will. Rookwoods don't go down easy.
Confringo. Dependo. Confringo. Revelio. Confringo. Revelio. Confringo. Revelio.
I think I know how and where to approach the centaurs about protecting the Snidgets. Meet me in the Forbidden Forest.
Revelio. Just my luck. A troll. Dependo. Confringo. Finger. Crucio. Confringo. Finger. Revelio. That should do it. I'd better get back to Saccharissa now. Saccharissa, I found the booba tubers you needed.
Splendid. I hope it wasn't too much trouble. May I have them?
Of course. Happy to have found them for you.
Thank you. And your payment, of course. Now I can begin perfecting my potion to save our poor pimply peers. Don't know who should be more grateful, I or our unsightly spotty classmates. One day the wizarding world will know my name, and you will have been a small part of it.
Are you ready to put an end to Harlow?
I'm ready to do what's needed to take Harlow down. I know you have a plan.
We must gather information from the friends of Mr. Bickle that Archie and Mrs. Bickle mentioned. Agabus Filbert, Otto Dibble, and Mr. and Mrs. Rabe.
All right.
I suggest that you speak with each of them while I head to the Hogshead. I saw some Ashwinders heading there. And as my mother would never go near the Hogshead, she is less likely to learn of my activities than if I were to wander the village questioning its residents.
Where am I to find these friends of his?
I do not know about Mr. Rabe, but his wife, Daisy, is often in Hogsmeade, as is Agabus Filbert. And Otto Dibble, he works at Gladrags, so you will likely find him there.
What sort of information am I trying to gather from these people?
They may know what evidence Mr. Bickle had against Harlow, or they may have evidence of their own. We simply need to know whatever they know.
Very well. I'll speak with them. See what I can learn.
I knew I could rely on you. We need to know how they are being blackmailed by Rookwood and Harlow. Meet me here after you have spoken with them. Hopefully, by the time you return, I will be able to move a bit more freely.
Mrs. Rabe should be nearby.
Oh, Isco, what have I done?
Mrs. Rabe, I wondered if I might speak with you about Theophilus Harlow. I'm a friend of the Bickles, and I'm trying to gather evidence against him.
Poor Joanna and little Archie. And now Harlow has taken my darling Isco.
What do you mean? Why?
I'm a security guard at Gringotts, and my husband is a curse breaker for them. Harlow approached me about helping him extort my colleagues into giving him treasures from the vaults.
And you declined?
Of course I declined. Repeatedly. I thought they'd given up, until I came home one night and found my husband gone, and a note affixed to my door with a knife. The note stated that I only had a few days to reconsider helping with some banking needs, and that my husband would appreciate it if I acted quickly. But the help Harlow wants is help that I cannot give, and my dearest Isco is paying the price.
Why wouldn't Harlow extort your husband?
Isco's job is even more removed from the vaults than mine. He travels the world for the bank. He could do nothing for Harlow. I'm the one in the bank on a daily basis, which evidently makes me an enticing target for blackmail.
Have you helped Harlow since your husband was taken?
No, I'm worried sick about Isco, but he'd never want me to compromise my integrity. I also know that he's extremely clever. That said, I was hoping he would have escaped by now. It makes me concerned as to why he hasn't.
Are you sure the note means that your husband was kidnapped?
What else could it possibly mean? Besides, I came home to find that someone had trampled the daisies in our garden. It may sound silly, but those were Isco's pride and joy. He would never have let that happen.
Thank you, Mrs. Rabe. Knowing the lengths that Harlow will go to is helpful, albeit more than disturbing.
Mr. Bickle was trying to help us, but now he's gone. I don't know what to do.
I shall do all I can to get evidence against Harlow, Mrs. Rabe.
Very well. Here's the note I received. You must be careful as well. Please don't put yourself in danger.
Some evidence worth hanging on to.
Thank you. I hope it's not too late.
Now to find Mr. Bickle's other two friends. Otto Dibble works at Gladrags. I should check that.
Please tell me you didn't take it. But perhaps it's been here all along.
Mr. Dibble, may I speak with you? It's about Theophilus Harlow.
I've nothing to say about him. May I interest you in a stunning cravat today?
Please, sir, I would like to help. I spoke to Mrs. Bickle.
You know the Bickles? All right. But we must be discreet. Can't have Mr. Hill hearing this.
I know Mr. Hill. He was kind to me the day of the troll attack.
Oh, he's a good man. But even he wouldn't understand about Harlow. It started a few weeks ago. I was distracted, reading a note, when you-know-who came into the shop. I hid the note behind the counter and offered to help him. He stared at me for a moment, then asked me to check on an order he'd placed. I went into the storeroom to check on what turned out to be a non-existent order. When I returned, he was holding the note.
What was in the note?
It was a note from Rosie Hill, Mr. Hill's daughter. You see, we've been, well, secretly engaged these past 6 months. We haven't told Mr. Hill yet. I dare say he has higher hopes for her. Harlow advised me in no uncertain terms that my relationship with Rosie, not to mention my employment here, depended upon my cooperation.
What did he ask you to do?
It all happened so quickly. In an instant, he took a very expensive scarf from the counter, pocketed it, and smiled. He said, "Your secret is safe as long as I can supply my lady friend with delightful items like this every so often." I've been able to cover for his requests until now with some creative bookkeeping, but I can't keep it out for much longer. I'm terrified to say anything. I could never live without Rosie.
Could you give me a bit more detail about the note that might help me to identify it should I come across it?
It's on Rosie's special pink stationery. It has her monogram at the top, RH. That's how Mr. Hill would know it was real.
What have you been doing to keep the extortion a secret?
Well, as I mentioned, creative bookkeeping. And I've also been trying to cover the costs with my own savings, but I'm running out of money. Of course, none of this bodes well for my efforts to improve my circumstances and be worthy of Rosie.
I met Mr. Hill the day of the troll attack. He was kind to me. Why don't you just tell him?
He's a lovely man, but when it comes to Rosie, I fear he loses all perspective. He'd see this as a grave betrayal. I'd lose my job instantly, and Rosie as well.
Thank you for telling me. I'm gathering evidence to take Harlow down.
I would love nothing more than to see him rotting in Azkaban, but be careful. He's an awful man and incredibly dangerous. As for Rosie's letter, should you happen upon it, I have committed it to memory. You may destroy it immediately.
Understood.
Now hurry off before Mr. Hill returns. Well,
We're on the right track. Now to find the last of Mr. Bickle's friends. Agabus Filbert must be around here somewhere.
Hello there.
Excuse me, Mr. Filbert. I wondered if I might speak with you about your dealings with Theophilus Harlow. I hope to ease Mrs. Bickle's mind by gathering evidence against him.
Tragic, what happened to Bickle. He wanted me to speak out against Harlow for an act of violence committed against me. But I feared Harlow's retaliation, and so I refused.
If you had spoken out against him as Mr. Bickle asked, perhaps Harlow would be locked away by now.
Perhaps. But perhaps I would have suffered a similar fate.
You said that Harlow committed an act of violence against you. Could you tell me what happened?
Before my extraordinary wife, Dulcibella, passed away, she had just completed a small book of poetry. As a surprise for her birthday, one she never had the chance to celebrate, I had the book beautifully bound and plated in gold. One day, Harlow came calling to punish me for having spoken out against the Neanderthals that comprise Rookwood's lot. Before I knew it, I'd been petrified, and Harlow was rifling through my home. He found the book of poetry, with its exquisite gold plating. I watched helplessly, lying there in my entranceway as he walked away with the book, laughing as he went. I was shaken to my core. Still am, to be honest.
I imagine you fear Harlow retaliating again. But do you mind if I share this information with Officer Singer?
I suppose I have no choice. This extortion can't go on forever. You can pass it on to anyone who may be willing to help. Harlow does not like people talking, as you already know.
I've spoken with Mr. Bickle's friends. Now to find Natty. Like Natty to be late. She said she was going to the Hog's Head. Perhaps I'll find her there. Revelio. Natty must be around here somewhere. Aunty's wand. She can cast without it. She wanted me to find this. She's in trouble. Revelio will show me where she was taken. Revelio.
Nosy little students get what's coming to them.
Auntie must have been taken this way. I need to find her quickly. Footprints led to this room. There must be another way forward. A hidden door. Auntie must have been taken this way. I need to find her quickly. Revelio. I'd better be sure I'm not seen. Revelio.
Just keep an eye out. How come I always draw the short straw?
How did I get mixed up in this? Doing Rookwood's work for him?
Revelio.
I raided Brockborough more times than I can count. They're incapable of defending themselves. Girl seen nothing but trouble. About time we locked her up.
Revelio.
Hey!
Be on the lookout for the girl's friend. If they're
And share alike, say I, as I'm Robin.
Got my eye on a few nearby hamlets.
If people don't want me to steal their valuables, they better get a really good look. Oi!
Revelio.
That was a good haul. Students, suppose that's what we're counting on, isn't it? Aye.
Otto Dibble's love letter from Rosie. He wanted me to destroy this if I found it.
Call out for me all you want. I don't want to work with goblins. Not now, not ever. Rookwood's gone mad.
Revelio.
I know you're there.
Confringo.
I've heard centaurs quieter than you.
I don't waste time sitting there.
Natty must have been taken this way. I need to find her quickly.
I've used unforgivable curses.
I'd better be sure I'm not seen.
Them alive.
Only a Hogwarts student would be arrogant enough to come in here alone.
Just keep an eye out.
Revelio.
There's trouble afoot.
And I have
Nothing but trouble. About time we locked.
Be on the lookout for the girl's friend. If they're daft enough to try and come through.
Aye.
Doing Rookwood's work for him.
It's exhausting. Standing here all day waiting to do Rookwood's work for him. He can fight his own battles. Everyone in our office will shout as soon as they see me coming, and right for themselves.
Aye. We should speak to her again. Perhaps she'll tell us where we can find that friend of hers.
She's determined to say nothing. The boss will deal with her when he arrives. If you owe me galleons and you can't pay,
That's your brain.